Hey, everybody, welcome. It's not Tuesday, but it's a special version of Hot Topic, and we're going to make it Hot Topic Thursday with our leader, Chris Hendrix, because there was a little bomb that got dropped out to anybody who's part of the Real Comp MLS, which, hey, thankfully, most of us are still calm and realize not much has happened. But Chris said, hey, let's get together and talk about this. So, Chris, what can you share with us on that?
So, Darwin, I'm going to share my screen real quick if it's okay. And so
Yeah,
the
let's do
first
it.
thing I want to show is the memo that came out. There was a memo that came out yesterday for all the Real Comp offices. And then there was a clarification memo that came out today. But I want to make sure everybody saw it first, Darwin, who's a Real Comp user. So
Yes.
we put out this announcement yesterday. I know you talked to Karen Cage, but basically, this time next week, all the compensation fields will be removed. So we wanted everybody to be on their toes with that. I actually picked up the phone this afternoon, Darwin, and I called MI Real Source because I know we have a lot of MI Real Source users on the call or on this Zoom call. And what I was told by MI Real Source is they are not jumping ahead because I know we've been working all along towards August 17th. They are going to make their change to the compensation fields August 13th. But they too are affected by this announcement because any listing, because of data sharing that did post commission on Real Comp will no longer post it on MI Real Source, and any MI Real Source commissions that, again, aren't going to be changed inside MI Real Source, they're not going to be changed until really almost this time next month. So I wanted to make sure everybody saw it. And I know there were a lot of emails flying around. And as the broker, I guess I wanted to get on the call with you, Darwin, and just kind of talk through it in a sensible manner with everybody. So the first thing is I want to reassure everybody. While I want to get on the call and say nothing's changed, there are some things this time next week that are changing, and we need to be prepared for it. I think the great news is for our company is we have been, Darwin, I mean, how long? We've been preparing for
Yeah,
this.
man, it was last fall.
Yeah, so almost 9 months we've been preparing for this moment. We've been training for this moment. We're ready for this moment. But for some of us who haven't really moved forward with it, I think the time is now, and we need to begin to protect ourselves. We need to protect our company, and we need to make sure, most importantly, we get paid going forward. So I want to share a couple things with everybody. But the first thing is I'm going all the way back to the beginning and the basics, and I'm using the CBP exclusive buyer agency contract as a demonstration. But we need to make sure that we're walking through this not after the fact, but up front with every buyer. Maybe we got lucky the last 8 to 9 months, and maybe there were some buyers that we didn't have this signed or we didn't have it signed till closing because we knew the settlement hadn't been finalized yet. But now we need to just go back to the basics. And I know, Darwin, you've been preaching this all year with your buyer boot camps and your hot topics, but now we need to get just as comfortable presenting this up front as we do with a listing agreement. We would
Yeah,
never not get a listing agreement signed and put a listing out on the market and not have our commission protected. We would never walk into a FISBO, would we?
you
And
never would.
not,
And this is our opportunity to be able to demonstrate value.
it is. And so we've got to get comfortable pulling this out like now, because as of this time next week for our Real Comp agents and offices, and this time next month for our MI Real Source and Paragon users, we're no longer going to be protected. So we've got to get comfortable pulling this out just as conversationally as I am with Darwin after we've explained our normal value, correct? That we're not a lawyer and we're not a CPA and that we are their designated agents. And this is the properties that we're talking about, but we've got to get comfortable explaining how we get paid. And it's no longer an option. We have to do it with confidence and be able to walk through this.
Well,
But
and let me just kind of add to it that paragraph 5 and 6 in reality hasn't changed.
at all.
because it's saying, here's what I get paid. And oh, by the way, I've always gotten paid by the listing broker or the seller. So again, that hasn't changed. What has changed is what we need to do to ensure that that payment gets made.
So great point. Great point. I mean, sometimes I can get it on a tangent when we start talking about that, but the simple matter of this hasn't changed. We've been working with this document. We've been working with the purchase agreement all year long. In this case, this is the Century 21 side. And so Darwin and I wanted to hop on this call and just talk about a couple very simple basics, a reminder for all of us. And so step one, Darwin, I think we talked about it yesterday, is now this has to come out. It has to come out often and early. Otherwise, we are flying blind. And now that it's not part of the MLS, our commissions aren't protected. And so
Matter of fact, we can only get paid what is agreed upon in the exclusive right to represent.
Agreed. Agreed. The second thing that you and I talked about that will be added to the OneDrive and will be in transaction desk in the next 24 to 48 hours is what Darwin has created. And Darwin, I'll let you explain it simply, but this is a co-op compensation agreement that's been put together.
Yeah, so the simple term to it is because there's no longer a guarantee of payment through the MLS because it's no longer advertised. When we have compensation being paid by the listing broker, the only way that we have certainty of that is to create a contract between the listing broker and we as a buyer broker, and obviously vice versa whenever we are the listing broker and we are able to offer compensation. Here's just a simple form that says, should this come about, we will pay you blank dollars or blank percent upon closing of this property.
Simple, straightforward. And Darwin, you're recommending this form come out when? When do the agent?
Early. Okay. I mean, you could, guys, if you were going to go show a property, you make a call, find out that, hey, they're going to compensate 3%, that you send this over and get it signed. Without doubt, you want to have this signed. And by the way, you're going to notice that we're really, I'd love to see the listing broker on here, not the agent. But the agreement is there, the agent basically accepting it on behalf of the broker. But get it before you present the offer. That would, the latest that you want it is before you even send an offer over to the listing agent.
So I schedule a showing appointment tonight. I've already got my exclusive buyer agency agreement signed, correct?
You got that correct.
I schedule a showing this evening on your property. I pop this over. Verbally, I've been told the commission. It's a formality. I get this signed and we're off and running. Yes?
We're good to go. If that buyer buys and closes, we get compensated from the listing broker.
All right. And the last thing I wanted to bring up to them is this is a third best practice that we recommend. And this is going to be a change from, you know, maybe how we've talked about over the years with a purchase agreement. Is our recommendation going forward is going to be that when you're writing a purchase agreement, again, we're covering our bases, right? We've already had signed an exclusive buyer agency agreement. We've had the co-op compensation or the co-broker compensation agreement, is that we include in our purchase agreement at the very end of the purchase agreement this verbiage. And so Darwin, I just want to go through it with them, but you and I've talked about this, is it basically just states all parties hereby agree that the seller shall compensate the buyer's agents with a commission equal to 3% of the purchase price payable at the time of closing. Simple, straightforward, but it crosses all of our T's.
The time that this really gets used, well, let's take it back to the KISS principle. In simple, we're either going to get from the seller and we use the cooperating broker compensation agreement. If the buyer is asking for it as part of their purchase agreement, paying compensation through the transaction, they're asking a seller to pay us directly, that's when this would come in. So really, we've got three scenarios. the listing broker pays it. We could get the seller to pay it. We could have it come directly from the buyer, and that's the end. We'll call it the third option then. But just those three simple ways, and those first two are the way that most of them are going to occur.
Perfect. So again, gang, we've been working on this. You're trained on this. You're prepared for this. But now, starting this time next week, we're going to have to really just kind of tighten up a few things. Again, making sure you're pulling, to Darwin's point, the exclusive buyer agency contract out early and often and upfront. Number two, getting that co-op commission agreement signed. And number three, if you do not have a co-op commission agreement and your buyer expects you to collect that from the seller, including it in their PA. So Darwin, did I miss anything?
You know what? Probably, Chris, but there's so much that's on a changing balance basis that we know that more is going to come up. And obviously, stay tuned. We've got hot topics are always a great way. Your managers are constantly updating, participate in the sales meetings that are coming up, because we're going to learn more. More clarifications will come, but I think rest comfortably. You've been trained and educated because, well, HRC Group, we're way ahead of everybody else.
Good deal. All right, gang. Talk to you soon.
Have a great one, everybody.